small UK village of Blackwood was cloaked in legends of fear and mystery, known chiefly for its eerie, dense woodlands. Its history was peppered with tales of the Lantern Man, a haunting presence said to tromp through the night with an ancient lamp beckoning unsuspecting wanderers to their doom. Despite the dread that gripped the locals, the story intrigued a group of 4 paranormal investigators driven by the allure of the supernatural. Dave, Amelia, Caleb, and Sarah disembarked the cramped train at Blackwood Station, their breaths visible in the cold night air. The village lived up to its ominous reputation. The moon cast a pallid glow over the deserted cobblestone streets, while a chilly breeze rustled the leaves of trees that lined their path to the inn. Each step echoed, adding a chilling orchestration to the night's symphony. At the inn, the investigators discussed their plans, while the wind howled ghostly tunes around them. Armed with recording devices, night vision cameras, and a healthy mix of skepticism and fear, they resolved to discover whether the tales of the Lantern Man held truth or were simply fantastical local lore. With morning came the gloom of a sun that barely pierced the thick mist hanging low over Blackwood. Vinny, the innkeeper, regaled them with more tales over breakfast, every bit as chilling as the last. He spoke of Vanna, the flower girl lost to the Lantern Man's call, and old Mr. Rigby, who was lured one night by an ethereal glow and found wandering, eyes vacant and mind shattered. The team set out towards the forest under bleached skies, the skeletal fingers of trees stretching out to pull them into its cursed depths. The canopy thinned as they ventured deeper, their own soft conversations swallowed by the oppressive silence. A sense of unease settled over them, for every whisper of wind and crunch of leaves felt like a ghostly echo of history. They established a base camp on the forest's edge, tents pitched in a small clearing surrounded by foreboding woodland. Nightfall approached, and with it, a heavy fog rolled in, drifting lazily around the trees, as if sensing the anticipation of the night stakeout. The lanterns were ready. They awaited the hour when truth might shimmer into view on those spectral glows. The tension thickened with the encroaching night as the investigators huddled around their equipment, going over the plan under whispering trees. Each member held the same apprehensive determination, mixed with curiosity, that had driven them this far. The forest was silent, except for a distant owl, its call a haunting melody dancing through the darkness. Midnight crept upon them with a creeping hush, the moon hanging stark against the speckled sky like a bleached bone. Their breaths, visible in the chill, mingled with the fog that enveloped their camp. With every passing minute, the wait for any sign of the Lantern Man seemed eternal. The stillness was so pervasive that every twitch of a leaf seemed amplified, echoing ominously against the backdrop of silence. Then it happened, a faint, flickering light in the distance, barely more than a glimmer threading through the shadowed trunks. It wavered like a phantom, adding layers of shadows to the leering trees. Hearts pounding, Dave and Amelia reached for their night vision cameras, while Caleb and Sarah prepared their audio equipment. Slowly, they began to move, their steps as silent as the grave towards the beckoning glow. They traversed the mystical landscape, stepping carefully over twisted roots and clutching underbrush that seemed to reach for them. The shifting light led them deeper into the woods, its glow flickering playfully between the trees, always just out of reach. Each step was measured, each breath tentative, as though inhaling the very essence of folklore. Amelia paused, her fingers brushing against Caleb's arm as they stopped to reassess their surroundings. The light danced further away, but there was something else, a chilling sensation rippling through the air, laced with an untraceable dread. She whispered to Dave, "Do you feel that? Like the forest is breathing with us." Her voice carried on the wind like an incantation, blending with the night's palette of rustling leaves and creaking boughs. As they moved, they noted strange markings on the trees, symbols carved deep into the bark, emitting a faint luminescence themselves. The team exchanged wary glances. These were not signs noted in any of their research. It was as though the forest was leaving behind a message, encoding secrets that grew darker with every step toward that haunting, oscillating light. As they drew closer to the luminescent mystery, the air grew colder and heavier, wrapping around them like a suffocating shroud. It was Caleb who first noticed the silence. The songs of the forest now caged in utter stillness, a disconcerting void that amplified their pounding hearts. They reached a clearing where the light paused, hovering in the air like a spectral beacon atop an ancient stone pedestal. Around it lay scattered remnants of what seemed like camping gear, half buried in the soft earth. Though untouched by time, the object seemed out of place, echoes from an era that should have long passed. The sense of foreboding was palpable, dripping like unseen icicles from the towering shadows. A sudden movement from the shadows caused their hearts to lurch. Something moved beyond the tree line, a shape, both human and not, its outline blurred within the spirals of mist. They stood frozen, eyes locked on the apparition, its lantern swinging rhythmically, the languid motion inviting yet terrifying. It was then the team realized they were not merely observers, but participants in the very tale they sought to uncover. With a sense of foreboding urgency, they navigated away from the enchanting yet terrifying sight, the uncertainty of their situation pricking their nerves. Amelia led the retreat, her heart a drumbeat of anxiety within her chest, every creak of a twig underfoot echoing as though the forest itself listened. As they returned towards their camp, Caleb felt a tug at his mind, a nagging sense not just of danger, but of familiarity, an impression that they were retracing steps, paths charted by those who vanished before them. Though initially driven by skeptical intrigue, he now felt a churning dread that the Lantern Man legend was more tangible than any of them had anticipated. clearing came into view once more, their tents standing surreal under an unsettling moon. The lanterns placed earlier were dark spots against the dense fog, swallowed by the night. Collecting their scattered nerve and equipment, they sought the warmth of their sleeping bags. However, as sleep eluded them, each mind churned with the same chilling question. Had they glimpsed a part of the legend that was never meant to be revealed to the world? Morning's pale light did little to warm the investigators' resolve, nor their bones, as they sat gathered around remnants of a campfire, now choked by dew and ash. Each face was etched with the very atmospheric dread that had begun to seep into their souls like a persistent chill. They meticulously reviewed their equipment, drawing upon the night's recorded data for clues. Yet, the footage was inexplicably distorted, a kaleidoscope of shifting shadows and what seemed to be the distant echo of a haunting melody, layering their reality with an unnerving uncertainty. Sarah, while listening to the captured audio, froze suddenly. A faint whisper, twisted through static, repeated a cryptic message. "Come to me." This whisper, coupled with the distorted images, shattered remaining barriers of skepticism. An air of uneasy awe pervaded their camp. What they had set out to debunk now held them captive in a grip of chilling intrigue. Caleb proposed a daytime investigation to seek the origins of these occurrences. Without protest, they agreed, forging into the forest once more, eyes wide against daylight's facade of tranquility, daring to unearth the past that wished to stay hidden. Layers of woodland surrendered their secrets one by one under the weary scrutiny of the search, the atmosphere dense with the acrid knowledge of unseen eyes. The bird calls were strangled, and each breaking twig seemed to resonate as an echo from an alternate time. As they ventured, it was Dave who stumbled upon an old shack deep within the copse, its roof overrun with roots like a corpse in decay. A relic from a forgotten era, the shack stood stoically amidst the oppressive quiet, its splintered door ajar and yawning like a maw ready to swallow them whole. Inside, the dim flicker of light revealed spectral shadows cast by a silent chorus of stillness. Dust motes hung in the shafts of spectral light that breached the shattered windows. In the corner, an ancient journal lay open on a table, pages yellowed and fragile. The inscription on the first page was chilling in its plainness. "If you read this, return to the light, lest it carries you too." With each word they read, the forest outside seemed to close in tighter, wrapping them in a spectral cocoon, foretelling eternal slumber. The journal's entries painted a tapestry of madness, a legacy of those who'd come before, ensnared by the lamp cry. Each page was a history marred by eroding sanity, recounting how the lantern man's call dragged them deeper into the woods, never to return. Sarah whispered the words, her voice barely reaching above the pounding hearts, details of the forsaken. Men and women who had wandered into the fog and abandoned time itself. Behind her, the shadows seemed to shift and coil as if drawn by a malicious muse, weaving a nocturnal tapestry. Suddenly, outside the shack's meager boundaries, an unsteady light began to dance, familiar yet horrifying in its promise. The allure was undeniable now, filling their veins with a primal urge to follow, to succumb. An unease like no other originated in their core, now forcing an uninterrupted gaze upon the truth emerging from dark oblivion. Their goal was no longer academic. It was a struggle to resist the forgotten passage whispered by the spectral presence, a baleful accompaniment murmuring on the breeze. The spectral dance of light outside compelled them reluctantly into the forest once more, swallowed by the sum of its silent crescendo. The terrain was intoxicatingly familiar, yet unsettling as they retraced paths that seemed to lead further away from sense and sanity. Caleb, driven by an inexplicable urgency, moved ahead of the group, his mind snarled in the remnants of incoherent voices that just skirted the edge of comprehension. It was a trance against which he felt helpless, drawn inexorably toward the distant illumination that teased from behind gnarled trunks. Suddenly, something shifted inside him, a sharp clarity piercing through the fog. With a shudder, he turned, pleading with the others to pull back, to resist the pull. But their eyes were empty, glazed with a hypnotic sheen that mirrored the beckoning glow. His voice, cracked and urgent, dissolved into the mists as the forest swallowed his words. A wind, thick with whispers, swirled around him, filling his mind with a single, haunting refrain. Once you're marked, there's no escape.